6 things that you can do to kill your relationship, and we're starting right now. Hi, it's Cece and I'm back here again with another video, and today's topic is going to be so interesting. It's literally talking about things that can kill your relationship before it even has a chance to thrive, things that can make a relationship just go south, and there's signs for you to watch out for. We're going to be talking about 6 signs today. Now we're going to start from number 6 because I'm going to do a 6, 2, 1, and make sure you stick around for number 2, because number 2 is something that we all have been guilty of doing at one time or the other. When you start a relationship, it's always filled with a lot of excitement, love bugs in your tummy. As the relationship progresses, sometimes we women find ourselves doing certain things that might kill it. And one of those things is being too clingy. Being too clingy in a relationship is such a no-no. It's such a relationship killer. Because once you start acting clingy, trust me, your man senses that clinginess from you, and it sort of makes him start to stretch away from you. You see, if your entire day revolves around him, where you're always sending him messages, or you guys are communicating a lot, which is a good thing, but if you find that your day revolves around him, or for instance you send him a message and he doesn't reply in a timely manner, or you're expecting him to send you a message and he doesn't, that sort of starts creating some sort of panic scenario inside of you. It's okay to feel a little bit apprehensive or a bit worried that he's not communicating back, but the problem with that is he starts to sense that in your energy and in your aura and in things you would start doing moving forward. These are signs of clinginess, and they're not very good to have early on in a relationship, or whatever stage you are in a relationship. He needs to understand that your life doesn't revolve around him. He needs to understand that you have a life outside of him. Find ways to keep yourself busy, because once he starts sensing that clinginess, men interpret it into being desperate, and obviously that's not the sort of signal you want a man to have of you. You want to assert yourself as a strong woman who is able to live life without him, because before he came along, you were living. Or if something happens and you guys break up, he needs to know that you'll be just fine. And so it's so important to make sure you don't revolve your life around him, your schedule around him, your activities around him. He needs to know that you've got a life of your own, and that life is so enjoyable. You see, men feed off that mystery that a woman has. Sometimes, yes, you might not directly show that neediness. You could actually be experiencing emotional neediness, where you get upset when he doesn't contact you, or he doesn't involve you in his plans, or he says he's going out with the boys and you're a little bit upset about that. No, you need to just take a step back and evaluate the situation in the relationship. As much as we need that validation from our partners, that we are wanted and needed and loved, it's honestly can be a deal breaker when you get so emotionally charged. You sort of wear your heart on your sleeve. You see, men have this thing where they want to have their freedom, or they like the perception of them being free. And I think it goes the same for women as well. We want to feel like we're free. We don't want to feel like we're being checked up on all the time, or keeping tabs on him all the time. There's this analogy and illustration I'd like to share with you, where the closer you draw yourself to a man prematurely, or when it's not taking a natural course of you guys getting close together, he's going to act like a rubber band. The closer you get, the farther he'll stretch away. Sometimes if he takes a break, or he's seemingly distant, leave him and let him be, because if he is for you, he will come back. Allow him to stretch away. Give him room to miss you, give him room to figure out what sort of woman you are. Once you show him that you are able to live without him, it's important to have your life and your interests intact, whether or not you're seeing him. So find ways to keep busy, whether it's being with friends, sharing an activity you love, pick up a hobby, just something that makes you even more attractive in his eyes, where he knows that, you know what, this one is to be kept, because you're showing and asserting yourself like a true woman. You can do just fine without him. You don't need him to complete you. When our partners do things to upset us, we find ourselves giving him the silent treatment, and this honestly doesn't help either of you. It doesn't help you, neither does it help him. The problem with the silent treatment is you are hurting. He's done something that has made you really hurt, and you're hurting. Now, having that silent treatment is actually not communicating effectively with him or telling him exactly how you feel. And you sort of try to self-diagnose the problem, or you're hurting about the problem, and you internalize that problem to the point where it starts acting out in your physical, and you give him the silent treatment and you're still hurting. So it's best to communicate. Now, what does labeling your partner mean? When your partner does something to you, we tend not to focus on that thing that he did that upset you. But what we do is we say, you always do this. So for instance, he's done something, instead of focusing on that particular issue or that particular problem, you generalize it and you make him feel like he always does it, which technically is a label. You're labeling him. Rather than focus on the issue or the problem, it makes them defensive, where instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry for this that I did, he would be saying, but I am not like this. I'm not always like this. So the problem or the issue takes a back seat, where he now gets in the hot seat of trying to defend himself that he's not that person, or he's not always doing what you said he did. Lead to a major argument or blowout in a relationship. And sometimes it's just good to, again, take a step back and just, focus on what he's done, so you can get to the bottom of that particular issue, as opposed to saying he always does this. This is a massive killer to relationships. I know it sounds like something that shouldn't be in a relationship, but it is real. Sometimes when you're scared of, or you're insecure in a relationship, it creates fear in your heart. It puts you in a situation where you start to fear, what if he walks out on you, or what if he leaves you, or what if you're not good enough for him. It starts making you question yourself. Now, the more you question yourself, the more you would sort of get in a space of negativity or negative energy, and this builds up to a point where it starts to affect your physical, it starts to affect your communication with him, it starts to affect, your peace of mind, it starts to affect how you feel when you're around him. So rather than focus on the fear, there are lots and lots of fears that we have when we're in a relationship, and these are just fears, because at the end of the day, it's something that, yes, there might be valid reason for you having that fear, but it is an emotion regardless. It is something that you've sort of created in your mind, which is not really happening, because the more fear that we feel in a relationship, the more insecure we grow, and the more it would ebb and eat away at our relationship, giving way or rooms to creating cracks in it, which would lead to you going your separate ways. So rather than feel fear, I say focus on self-development, where you focus on yourself and you recognize your fears and start to head on and overcome your fears when it comes to your man. When you're scared, it sort of takes over your mind, it takes over your being, and you start doing things that not you. You start doing things when you've calmed down, you'd even be surprised that, gosh, did I just do that? So you have to take control of it and cap it before it ruins your relationship. have an argument or you guys have had a quarrel and he, obviously you guys are not talking to each other, and if you find yourself in a space where you are the one who always needs to make the first move towards reconciliation, or you are the one who always makes the first move to problem solving, then this is a big problem, because there are two people in this relationship. You can be wrong 100% of the time, and he also can't be wrong 100% of the time. And so this is where compromise comes in, where, if you have an issue or problem, the reconciliation move shouldn't always be one-sided. Both parties need to take responsibility of their role in the problem and find a way to reconcile. But if you find yourself constantly making the first move or constantly apologizing, then this is obviously not a good thing. We feed off each other's patterns, and if he notices that anytime there's a problem or an issue, you're always the first one to apologize, or you're always the first one to want to talk about it, or you're always the first one who wants to move forward, then he's going to feed off that. It's going to more or less make him relax, and he's always going to wait for you to do that. Not only are you shortchanging yourself, not only is your value diminishing in his eyes, you're basically killing the relationship, because he needs to also reach out. He needs to know that, I don't want to lose the love of my life, so I need to also reach out and apologize if it is his fault, and vice versa. So this can kill your relationship if you don't nip it in the bud. He needs to understand that if you have an issue, both of you need to work out the issues, but it can't always be one-sided. A lot of the times we don't even discuss with our friends, and we don't even discuss with people around us, which is what I said to you, that number 2 is something that a lot of us do. And we don't necessarily see this as a problem, because for you, once you make up with him, when you guys are back together, you don't really focus on how you made up or who made up first. So you need to take account, or if this sounds familiar, and watch things and then see if he's done something and he's wrong. He should step up to the plate and apologize and reconcile and make that whole reconciliation move. Now, the dangerous thing with this is it is manipulative. He would manipulate you to the point where you see him as your emotional fix. Temper. Sometimes we tend to flare up at our partners, and I think we all know what's coming. This is not good when you have such a bad temper that you just flare out and you just lash out at him. This is a major relationship killer. Whatever happens, being angry about it or lashing out or screaming or throwing tantrums has never served anyone. And the truth is, it never will, because there are other ways to communicate more effectively than to be angry. And sometimes we justify the anger by saying, oh, he's done this and that to me. No, you must understand, your partner is not your child, and even with your child, it's not even an excuse for you to lash out at your child. It's not an excuse. He's not your child, he's not your pet. In all these scenarios, it's still not okay to lash out or to throw a major temper tantrum. It is so unattractive to have a woman just be hot-headed or hot-tempered. Men actually prefer women who are more peaceable. And I know, yes, it's easier said than done, because sometimes we tend to be quite reactional in our hurt, or quite reactional in displaying the pain that lies within us. If you go on with a bad temper or having temper tantrums, it's just going to eat away at the relationship. It's going to kill it eventually, because there's only so much a person can take. Personally, I've had situations where I've lashed out at my partner. I was so angry, and I justified that anger in my mind. Like, you know what? The level of anger you gave to me, it justifies the level of my reaction. But you know what they always say? We are responsible for our response, and lashing out and being angry only makes the other person, 1, be defensive, 2, feel disrespected, and 3, it just makes him feel, like he's nothing. And when you treat someone like that, do you think you're honestly going to continue to get a pat in the back. Having major temper tantrums is a no-no. Outside of the fact that it's unattractive, it's not even good for your health. Calm down. You're gonna get yourself high blood pressure or get yourself so much in a knot that it would just basically affect you mentally. You know, this is why self-development comes in very strong, because the moment we start focusing on our weaknesses and not passing our weaknesses off as it's just the way I am, or that's how I always am, or it's the way I've always been. No, it's letting yourself off the hook. You should develop yourself. So once you recognize your weaknesses, it's easier for you to focus on that weakness and start to develop yourself in a way that you bring your best self to the table, and he sees you for the woman you are, and he sees you for the diamond that you are, because a rose is still a rose, as they say. So I hope you found this video interesting, and I hope you found it helpful. If you did, give it a like and share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. I can't wait to see you in the next video, and this is my cue to say au revoir.